Okay, thank you for joining with us. My name is Tiana Tran and I am the co-founder of GovReports, and I will be your host for today's sessions. Along with me is my business partner Nagaraj Virachatia, who will assist with the technical questions, if any, beyond Vinod's or the presenter's knowledge of our system, and the wonderful team at GovReports. The webinar topic is GST for practitioners, and presenting today's session is Vinod Kashyap, who is a compliance reporting technology enthusiast with a background in finance. Vinod has broad experience in all aspects of accounting, auditing, international taxations, and information system audit. He has worked with audit of banks, corporate and financial consulting, and investment banking. We recently released our beta versions of the GST reporting platform, and with luck we have had quite a few interest from tax return preparers community, and certainly Vinod has test run our GovReports. It is early days for us still, but to get feedback from someone like Vinod Kashyap is really a head start, and will answer a lot of questions for practitioners about the new GST reporting regime and what it means for their practice. Before we start, and for me to pass the control of the webinar technology over to Vinod, I'd like to go through a little bit of housekeeping rules so you are familiar with. Firstly, this webinar is recorded, so for those that could not make it to the sessions or those wanting to revisit the sessions in their own time, it will be posted on our website post the webinar. Secondly, the session is best to attend for those with headphone or dial in separately via the telephone, and also available through mobile app as well. If you can't hear us well through your computer, I would suggest you revisit the sessions with the recording. If you have questions during the sessions, please raise your hands with the hand icon, or post your questions. We will go through them appropriately at the little breaks when Vinod has stopped. To ensure that everyone can enjoy the session without the interruptions, the technology is set up so that only the presenter and your host, which is myself, will be speaking during the sessions. So any question is best to be posted up. But for now, I'll pass on the webinar technology over to Vinod so he can start the sessions. Over to you, Vinod.
Thank you. Thank you, Raj, for the introduction. Good evening, friends. I welcome you all to this webinar, GST for practitioners. Friends, we are depending upon the technology to enable us to organize this webinar for you, all of you who are located at different places in the country. I hope the technology allows us to complete this webinar without any further hiccups. Our today's agenda is to discuss a little bit about GST. I'm sure you all must have read the draft GST rules as well as the final GST rules which have come out in the month of April only. Then we'll discuss about some of the key features of GST system, online system which is being introduced by the government for filing of returns. Then we'll discuss about GST compliance requirement, and we'll also see how the GST returns can be prepared using the software and uploaded at GST portal. Let us start with GST. GST is a destination-based tax which is levied on the consumption of goods and services. GST has got two components. One is CGST, another is SGST, and then there is integrated GST which is for interstate transaction. For interstate transaction, it is CGST or central government GST, and SGST, state GST. Finance Ministry has already set the deadline for introduction of GST from 1st of July. After the introduction of GST, some of the indirect taxes which are levied by central government and by state government will be subsumed in GST. Like for central government, central excise and additional excise duties which are levied by the central government will be subsumed in CGST. Service tax, then additional custom duties CVD and SAD countervailing duties and special additional duties, central surcharge and cess, they all will be subsumed in CGST. Similarly, some of the state tax which are being levied on the taxpayer like sales tax, VAT, central sales tax, taxes on betting, gambling, lottery, purchase tax, anti-tax, octroi, entertainment tax and luxury tax. They all will be subsumed in SGST. I am sure most of you understand how the GST will work, but for some of our friends who might not have read the rules properly or who might not have understood the GST mechanism, I'll try to take a very simple example to explain how the GST system will work. Suppose a supplier sells some goods for a basic price of ₹100 to the manufacturer and he charges 15% GST on the supply. The manufacturer pays ₹115 to the supplier. So supplier has collected 15 rupees as GST. We presume that he has not paid any tax for purchasing this goods, so his input credit for tax paid is 0. So he needs to pay ₹15 as GST collected from manufacturer to the government. Manufacturer does manufacturing work and add 50% as markup for his cost and profit. So his selling price becomes 150 plus 15% of GST, which is about 22 rupees 50 paisa. So he sells the goods at 172 rupees 50 paisa to the retailer. So he has collected 22 rupees 50 paisa as GST. Since he has already paid rupees 15 to the supplier as GST, he will get input credit for tax paid and he needs to pay rupees 7.50 only to the government as GST. Retailer adds some value to the product, his cost plus his profit total up to say 100% markup. So his selling price becomes rupees 300 and on this rupees 300 he charges 15% GST, which is rupees 45. So the consumer finally pays rupees 345, which includes rupees 45 as GST. So retailer has collected rupees 45 as GST. Since he has paid rupees 22.50 as GST to the manufacturer, his tax liability is rupees 22.50, which he pays to the government. So you can understand from this brief illustration that finally the tax or the GST has been passed on to the consumer who is bearing the burden of draft rules. First is the registration. Registration in GST, we have a pen-based registration which is to be obtained for each state where taxable supplies are being made. Then if a taxpayer has more than one business vertical within a state, then he may obtain separate registration for each of the business vertical. Location and supply is important from taxation point of view. Interstate supply of goods or services means where the location of supplier and the place of supply are located within the same state. Interstate supply of goods or services means where the location of supplier and the place of supply are located in different state. Time of supply is the date on which supplier receives the payment or the date on which supplier tax is transaction value of supplies, that is the price actually paid or payable for the supply of goods or services or both. Now taxability, tax on supply of goods or services rather than on sale of goods or provision of services. Intrastate supply of goods or services, there we have CGST and SGST both levied, CGST by the central government and SGST by the state government. For interstate supply of goods or services, only integrated GST will be levied by the central government. Let us discuss about input tax credit or ITC. ITC is very important because it has an important role in determining the tax liability of the taxpayer. ITC is allowed on inward supply of goods or services provided the taxpayer is in possession of the invoice. That means he cannot claim ITC without obtaining the original invoice from the supplier. Then receipt of goods or services is important. Only the possession of bills will not do. Tax is actually paid by the supplier to the government. Then for claiming the ITC, return needs to be furnished to GST. ITC will be confirmed only after the invoice details are matched with the supplier. In case there is a mismatch in invoice details, then ITC will be reversed. ITC cannot be availed after filing of return for the month of September in the next financial year. Suppose we are talking about say financial year 2017-18. That means for current financial year, ITC cannot be availed after September 2018 or after filing of annual return, which will happen on 31st December 2018. ITC is available only on provisional basis for a period of 2 months until payment of tax and filing of valid return by the supplier for goods or services is completed. And in case the taxpayer has purchased any capital goods, then ITC on purchase of such capital goods is allowed in one single installment, unlike the service tax where presently the ITC is allowed in 2 installment in 2 financial years. So that is a plus point. Now returns. There are minimum 3 returns to be filed every month by the taxpayer. GST 1 for outward supply of goods or services. This return needs to be filed by 10th of subsequent month. Then GST 2 for inward supply of goods or services. This is to be filed by 15th of subsequent month. Then GST 3, which is monthly return, this is to be filed by 20th of subsequent month. Then annual return needs to be filed by 31st December of subsequent financial year along with the reconciliation statement. Now payment of GST. GST can be deposited through normal banking channels, which means through internet banking, RTGS, NEFT, debit card or credit card. Debit card or credit card payment is a new feature which is added in GST. Taxpayer can register his debit card or credit card with GST portal, and then he can make the tax payment using his registered debit card or credit card and over the counter, which means he can go to the bank and deposit the check or cash and make the tax payment. Then system of availing electronic cash ledger and electronic ITC ledger will be maintained on GST portal. Date of credit to the government account in authorized bank will be date of payment for credit in electronic cash ledger. Payment of taxes is made by way of debit in electronic cash ledger or credit ledger. Now let us discuss a little bit about impact areas of business, how GST will affect the various business areas. First of all, GST will affect the pricing, costing and margin because there is a change in the rate of tax which is being applied today on a product and which will be applied after the implementation of GST. Then there will be effect on supply chain management because the place of supply and the rate of tax is going to change under GST. IT systems will have a lot of impact because GST requires all the returns to be filed on an online. GST website will be in digital form only. Treatment of tax incentive will be another area which will get affected. For example, today many states are providing sales tax exemption to some of the companies which are setting up new industrial undertakings in backward area. How this will be treated in GST, that is to be seen. In this regard, government needs to make announcement. Then treatment of excluded sector. Some of the sectors which are excluded from taxation under the present laws, how they will be treated in GST, that is to be seen. Then transaction issues and then tax compliance. Tax compliance will be a little different in case of GST because it will be a fully digitized system wherein the taxpayer will be uploading the data of his supplies, then downloading the data of his purchases. There will be a matching of data. So this all needs to be done by using the software, by using the IT system. So there is a lot of impact on IT system for tax compliance purpose. Now let us briefly discuss about some of the key features of GST system which is being implemented by the government. GST system is going to be completely digitized system. Now you can see on your screen a diagram showing the GST system which will be implemented. We have taxpayer applications in the form of ERPs, standalone custom application, accounting softwares, Excel based systems. These all systems need to export the sales register or data of sales invoice in CSV or Excel format. This data of sales will be uploaded on GST portal, and then from GST portal it will be uploaded to GST server. Then the taxpayer needs to download the data of purchases in the form of GST2 return. So it will be totally interactive system, digitized system, wherein everything will be done through online. The concept of eBay bill is very similar to what we are using today in the form of Form 38 or road permit. See, today there is a system of issuing road permit or Form 38 whenever there is a movement of goods between two states. But in case of movement of goods within the state, road permit is not required. But in case of eBay bills, it will be required for every movement of goods having value of more than 50,000 rupees. Then for this purpose, the supplier needs to upload the data of invoice, and then EBN or eBay bill reference number will be generated, which will be made available to supplier, recipient and the transporter. Then transporters need to carry this EBN reference number or eBay bill. Tax officials can verify the particulars of eBay bill during the movement of goods, but they need to upload the report on this verification at GSTN portal, which will be available to supplier, recipient and transporter all. Now let us discuss a little bit about the movement of transaction, how one transaction, single transaction will move from an order to filing of monthly return and to annual return. Suppose A orders for supply of goods to B, then the transaction begins. B supplies goods to A, say on July 1, then B needs to file on-rail return for goods sold at GSTN portal in the form of GSTR1. The deadline for filing GSTR1 is August 10. GSTN will then generate form GSTR2A giving details filed by B through form GSTR1. Then A needs to download this GSTR1 from GSTN portal and confirm the details supplied by B. If A matches the details, then A needs to file GSTR2 at GSTN to confirm the details. GSTN will then auto-populate the data in the form of GSTR3A based on the data contained in form GSTR1 filed by B, and GSTR2 provide it to both A and B. Then both A and B need to file their monthly return in the form of GSTR3, and A needs to pay tax on the goods supplied. Then A gets the input of tax credit. It is finalized after GSTN finalizes GST ITC 1 return. A and B both final annual return in the form of GSTR 9 by December 31 of 2018. This is the complete sequence of transaction till the filing of annual return, provided the details of supplies and purchases matches. Suppose the details don't match, then what will happen is A needs to upload form GSTR2 with missing details. The deadline for this is August 15. GST needs to generate GSTR1A with missing details for A. The deadline for this is August 16. If B agrees, B files revised GSTR1. Then GSTN auto-populates GSTR 3A based on the data contained in form GSTR 1 and GSTR 2 and provided to both A and B. Then both A and B file GSTR 3 return, pay tax and get inputs tax credit, file the return by August 20 and finally the annual return by December 31. Suppose B does not agree. Then GSTN generates GST ITC1 giving final chance to both A and B for reconciliation. Then in this case input tax credit is denied to A for the amount under dispute and the tax liability of supplier increases. Both A and B file then monthly return, then annual return by December 31, 2018. So this is how the transaction ends in different scenarios. One, in case the details of supplies match. Second, in case the details don't match. And third is when the buyer and supplier don't reach any agreement on the supplies. Now let us discuss little bit about monthly return filing process. Taxpayer needs to upload the details of outward supply or the data of sales bill by 10th of subsequent month on GST portal in the form of GSTR 1. Similarly, taxpayer's supplier also upload GSTR 1 and based on the GSTR 1 of his suppliers, GST auto-populates GSTR 2A return, and this return can be downloaded by the taxpayer. He can make addition, modification or deletion. He need to finalize it by 15th. So by 15th he need to file GSTR 2 return. Similarly, GSTR 1A is auto-populated based on the input received from the buyer. Then the taxpayer needs to make corrections based by matching the data available in his accounting records, and this needs to be completed by 15th of subsequent month. Based on the GSTR 1 and GSTR 2 return, GSTN will auto-populate the data in monthly return, and this monthly return needs to be filed by 20th of subsequent month. And but before that, before the filing happens, the taxpayer needs to make the payment of tax. In this entire return filing process, one thing I have repeatedly mentioned about reconciliation of data mismatch. So here is one example of reports which are being downloaded from the GST portal for matching the data or showing the mismatch in data between the supplier and the buyer's invoice value. Now here in the first report, receiver mismatch report, you can see 3 invoices which have different taxable value. One is provided by the receiver, another is provided by the supplier. So there is a total mismatch credit of rupees 12,000, and invoice wise also is mismatch credit amount is provided in the report. Now the taxpayer needs to reconcile this data with his actual accounting data and reach to the conclusion. Similarly, another report, supplier mismatch report, will also be downloaded from GSTN portal. Here we have an example where 3 invoices details are not matching between the supplier and receiver. The total taxable value involved is 4,50,000 and total output tax liability, which will be increased if this mismatch continues, is rupees 3,400. So you can say this mismatch of data will directly impact the tax liability of the taxpayer. So here the software plays an important role in how it matches the data mismatch downloaded from the GSTN portal. This is a small example where we are only considering 3 invoices. Suppose there is a large company which has, say, more than 500 invoices every day, 500 sale invoices and 600 invoices of purchases. Then even 10% mismatch data means 50% of suppliers data is not matching, and 60 invoices of purchase are not matching, which needs to be reconciled, and then there is a deadline within which this data needs to be matched and monthly return needs to be filed. So here the software plays an important role because it is very difficult to find out the errors or the mismatched data comparing the two invoices. We need to use the software to quickly find out where the error is happening and how it can be reconciled. Now recently there was an announcement by the government that government is going to make a compliance rating for taxpayers. This is on the lines of CIBIL rating. We are familiar with CIBIL ratings, wherein a borrower's rating is being provided at CIBIL's website based on his past track record of repayment of the installment. Similarly, in case of GST compliance rating, the criteria for compliance rating will be timely payment of taxes, timely filing of return, and other compliances under the GST law. Now, since GST system is totally online system where every data of supplier and buyer is matched, there are a lot of controls which will check various kind of frauds which happen today in other systems. The new system will check fraudulent bills, improper input tax credit claimed by the taxpayer, fraudulent use of exemption rules, false payment proof which could happen with the submission of hard copies of tax payment challans, unrecorded sales because there is a matching of purchase and sales invoice or matching of invoice between supplier and buyer, misuse of composition method, under invoicing, non-existent dealers or ghost dealers can be found out, or other errors. By using data mining, it will be very easy for the government to find out these all kind of frauds and errors and put a check on them. So revenue leakage can be stopped. Now let us discuss briefly about GST compliance requirements. Compliance requirement starts with migration of registration. All existing service tax payers and sales tax VAT payers need to migrate registration to GST. The deadline for this is 30th April now, unless the government extends the date again. Then the taxpayer needs to report the accumulated credits in the form of SENVAT, unavailed SENVAT, which is appearing in his books as on 30th June, or tax paid on inventories as on 30th June. This he needs to report within 60 days of the appointment date, but the government needs to make an announcement of the appointed date, and as soon as the government announced, then the taxpayer needs to report the accumulated credits within 60 days. Classification of goods and services which the taxpayer is providing, he needs to add HSN code to the goods and services. Then there is a change in tax rate, so the taxpayer needs to adjust to the new tax rates. There is a new format of tax invoice which has been released wherein certain particulars are required. Then challan and returns. I'm sure you must have read what all data needs to be provided in new tax invoices. Then periodic returns, which we have just discussed, 3 monthly returns and 1 annual return. Then there is a change in the IT system. IT system needs to provide the data of sales register for uploading at the GST portal. Then when we download the data of purchases, then the IT system should compare it with the data lying in our accounting system and do the reconciliation. Now, roadmap to GST compliance. First of all, awareness needs to be created and understanding needs to be developed about GST. GST is a new tax for which we have been hearing for last 10 years, but now it is becoming a reality. Tax structure needs to be made aware within the organization, its rules, its implementation. Then an impact assessment needs to be made on the current supply chain, on the cost and price, new tax regime and old tax regime, and find out the alternatives wherever the organization is put into an adverse situation. For example, instead of interstate supply, one can move to interstate supplies. Then for implementation, priorities needs to be set up and IT strategy needs to build up. This is for the large organization, but for a small organization, it will be just find out a suitable compliance software which can generate monthly returns, file it at GSTN portal, download the reports, compare it with the data in the accounting system, reconcile the data, and then upload the returns. Then post implementation, we need to make the review for ensuring that the system is aligned to the requirement of GST laws, and then make improvement in it. Now let us see how the GST return will be prepared using the software. So we have this GOV report software. It's a cloud-based software. It can help in preparing GST returns and uploading it for GST portal. I'll just try to show you how this software works. This is the home page of the software. Now you need to go to login. Oh, I am already logged in. So it has two portions. One is for office portion where I can see set my profile, add my purchases, change my passwords, email logs are there. Then we have another portion of software which is GST ledgers, where we can add the customers, we can add their data of sales. Like here I have 3 clients, Clearwater Solution, so I can just open it. See, due to shortage of time, I have already created customer to quickly show you how the system works. See here, in case we need to file the sales data in the form of GSTR1 return. So in case of this client, I can add my customers, I can add estimates, add invoices. Like this is the one invoice which has been added here. Same way I can go to purchases, add the supplier's profile, their reference number, their entire profile can be created, contact details, their GSTN number and all. Then I can add the data of purchases from them. Then I can go on report generation, various reports which will be prepared by the software, like trial balance, general ledger summary, general ledger details, balance sheet. These all can be prepared using the software. Now based on the data which I have put in for the purchase and sale, I can generate my GSTR returns. So I need to click on this icon. Here I have an option to create my returns for different months. For example, for March 2017, if I have to prepare the return, by clicking on this GSTR1 return, it will download the data from whatever data I have put in the form of supply bills. So here we have supplies to registered person, amended supplies, supplies to consumers large, and all other data is populated in the form of GSTR1. Now total taxable value in this case is 20,000 rupees and the tax liability is 3,600 rupees. See, as I have told you earlier, GSTR1 return is the only return which is uploaded by the taxpayer at GSTN portal. Sales data is uploaded. For purchase data, the taxpayer needs to download the data in the form of GSTR2A from the GST portal. So by clicking this icon, I am connected to GSTN server, and here I need to put OTP to download the data of my purchases. Now it says GSTN authentication process completed successfully, please try now. See, these all functionalities at the moment are in test phases. Now this has downloaded the data. Now you can see the suppliers data, GSTR2 dashboard. So dashboard is showing me the summary of all those data which has been downloaded from GST portal. This is all test data which has been downloaded from the GST server. Now the taxpayer needs to match this downloaded data with the data which is lying in his accounting records, and then needs to upload the final GST2 return. So here, presuming that all my reconciliation has been done, I can file the GST2 by just clicking this report. So it shows my total invoice value is 1000 rupees, total taxable value rupees 500, total CGST and total SGST, total amount 124 for 99 as IGST. So I click submit. So GST2 has been filed successfully. See, at the moment these all features at GST portal also are in testing phase. Once the testing phase is complete, then probably we can try using the live data. At the moment it is the test data which is downloaded and which we are accepting and filing at GST portal. So after filing the GSTR 1 and 2, then we can move to GSTR 3. See, based on this GSTR 1 and GSTR 2, data in GSTR 3 will be auto-populated. It will be downloaded from GST portal, and then after making the payment of tax, the taxpayer can upload this GSTR 3 return. Now one thing you must have noticed that in this whole return preparation, then downloading of data, matching of data, there is an important role of software in matching the mismatched data. So here the quality of software will be important in how quickly the software does the work of reconciliation of mismatched data which is downloaded from GST portal from the accounting data. Now in this GST, there is an opportunity for GST practitioners. GST practitioners can be chartered accountant, cost accountants, or company secretaries. But apart from these accounting professionals, government has also allowed the graduates, commerce graduates, graduates in management and law to become tax practitioners. They can also be a tax return preparator. So they can there is a lot of scope in, say, advisory services in first is in GST implementation, second is in return preparation, and third is in providing advisory services, and last is audit, which of course can be done by chartered accountant and cost accountant, not by graduates or other degree holders who have been allowed to become tax return preparers or TRPs. Friends, if you want to keep updated with GST knowledge, you can join this group on LinkedIn. It's GST knowledge sharing group at LinkedIn, where we exchange views on various topics. We exchange the news, where we participate in discussions of the problems which our professional friends face in implementation of GST. Now, if you have any questions, we can take up those one by one. You can ask your questions. Hello. Are there any questions?
Hello.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, good evening. This is Vignesh here.
Yes, Vignesh, please go ahead.
What would be the impact on the works contract companies where they do only, it is like a manufacturing thing, they purchase raw material and they convert the things into a working product, and what would be the impact on them?
See, the final rates of GST are not yet announced. There will be one composite tax on works contract. Okay. So once those rates are announced, then we'll be able to make out the final impact on works contract. At the moment, there is no announcement about the rate. Government has just announced that those four rates, 5%, 12%, 18%, and 28%.
Okay.
Okay. So this is still in, you know, it is still in fluid situation.
Okay. So whatever you told now is for the traders.
See, I have tried to give a presentation for a general text.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
general
I got
text.
it.
For a
Okay,
specific sector, if you want to discuss, say for say steel industry, for real estate industry, then we'll have to take a separate session. How GST is going to affect them.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Any other questions? While we're waiting for other questions to come online, Vinod, I have a question
Yes.
for you. Since you've tested our Gov Reports GST platform, did you feel like it meet your expectations of what is to come?
Yes, the software is very user friendly. I am sure many of our friends who have participated in the webinar can try their own hands to see how the returns are prepared using this software and how the data can be reconciled, mismatched data can be reconciled. But that can happen once the GSTN platform is ready and we are able to download from GSTR 1A and GSTR 2A.
Okay, and what roles will you see tax practitioner do in the GST reporting that they normally don't do in terms of other tax returns?
See, in case, there is a basic difference in case of other tax return is like entire data is filled by the tax practitioner and uploaded at government's website. Here what is happening is only the data of supply is being uploaded and that data is not accepted by the government. That data is being matched by the buyer, and in case there is a mismatch, then in the form of GSTR 1A, the data is auto populated in form GSTR 1A, which the taxpayer can download and then try to reconcile where is the mismatch. He can either accept it or reject it or modify it. So no data is accepted unless both buyer and supplier agree. That is the basic difference.
Okay, and what did you experience with other software in terms of going forward in servicing the tax practitioners market?
See, we are yet to see the full features in the other software. See, all the other softwares, most of the softwares are in, say, beta version stage, where most of the vendors are not, not very were not very upcoming. Rather, vendors are reluctant to give the demo or allow the use of their software to see whether it is giving the desired results or not.
I agree. And what you see in our beta 1 or beta, the first versions, only the GST workflow component, the platform features have yet been implemented and released in the later versions, so which will include the practice management system for principal to set up and manage a workflow consistency with scheduling tools, jobs and task managers, time billing, etc., and digital signature. We will have a series of webinars relating to GST reporting topics in the coming period, and we'll be posting the details on our website for you to register, or we might contact you on emails. But if you're not too sure and would like to participate, just please send us an email or let us know, and we'll be assisting you with your queries. Do we have any other questions from the floor?
Friends, if you have any questions later on also, what you can do is you can send the email. We'll try to answer all your queries.
Great. As I said, this session has been recorded, so if you've got further questions or if you want to revisit the sessions, it will be available online in a couple of days. And again, thank you for your participants, and I look forward to see you again online on our next webinars. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.